This episode is your one-stop shop to everything you need to know about the Horus Heresy.
Welcome to Trident Wargaming, a podcast dedicated to all aspects of tabletop wargaming. Your hosts are Bill and Andy.
Hey everybody, welcome back. This is episode 16 of Trident Wargaming, and we're going to be diving into everything you need to know about the Horus Heresy, getting started either as a new player or a transitioning 40k player. We'll be going through everything top to bottom. I am your host, Bill.
I'm your other host, Andy.
And yeah, we're just going to kind of jump into it. First things here, we just wanted to say a big thank you for all the support that we've been receiving on the social media side. It's been lots of comments, lots of engagement with you guys, and we definitely appreciate all the posts and pictures and just, yeah, all the things that you have to say. So, big thank you.
Definitely, yeah. Big thanks. It's really encouraging and whatnot to see you guys post on our Instagram and our Facebook and any threads that we're on as well. So keep it up. It's really entertaining when we see you guys engage with us, right? So definitely keep it up, and we'll have more stuff coming out, and hopefully you guys will like what we're bringing.
Oh yeah.
And I think we have a mention of our giveaway.
Yep.
So we're pretty much giving away the Ravener Returned limited edition book that came out just recently. Once we reach 350 followers on Instagram. Yep. So don't forget to sign up. You get a chance to win that book. It looks pretty nice, actually, that book, the cover of it and everything. So,
oh yeah.
Keep on posting, keep on checking our stuff out. And it's kind of a thank you for everybody following and checking our stuff. So
definitely. So I guess without any more delays, we'll jump right into it. Basically, Horus Heresy. It is, I guess, what could be called a intimidating rule set, only because there's so many books, and you're not really sure what you need to play what, especially as a new player or coming in from 40k. It's laid out a little bit differently than the 40k rules are. So essentially, when you're getting started, and this will, we're gonna break it down right to the beginning. Getting started, you obviously want your Age of Darkness rulebook. This is the current rule set for 30k. Some people call it the first edition Age of Darkness. Some people call it 7.5. It's referred to as both online. So if you ever see either or, that's basically what they're talking about. This is the same as your rulebook for any other game that you play. The main one that you really should have, chock full of all your universal special rules, unit types. Basically, you need this book to navigate your way through the rules and the game. All the different turn sequences and the mechanics and how they interact are in there. There is also a online FAQ that gets added into that. Some of those files can be found on the Warhammer community page or in Games Workshop itself. And basically, it's under the Age of Darkness FAQ and errata. There'll be links for all this stuff in the description as well. Also, if you're watching this on YouTube, there's actual visuals, so you can actually match up. Oh, that's the book I have. It's current. Great. Just to make it easy. And if you're listening along, well, that's fine too. We're just going through everything in a lot of details, so you won't miss out. But that's basically for sure what you need to get started. Keep in mind, take with a little bit of salt. They say, second, third quarter, some big news for Heresy. What that could be, I don't know, but I suspect it would be safe to jump in and get this rule book. It's, I believe, only 2 years old, maybe 2.5. So I can't see it jumping to something new anytime soon.
Yeah, you would think that they would have already done that by now, but
exactly,
it's pretty much the standard edition for Heresy. So, and on top of that, I guess depending on where you're sitting at, if you kind of have an idea of what army you're looking at playing, and usually, I mean, any of you guys who are a fan of Horus Heresy, you know, you've probably gone through some of the novels or the audiobooks or the little fluff that you've seen here and there. You know, maybe you aren't as hardcore as other people are. Maybe you are, but usually you have an idea of what army you want to play, or, you know, Legion or Mechanicum or whichever, right? So there are a couple other red books, as we call them. They are the Age of Darkness books, the Legion Astartes specific Legion book, Army of Darkness Legions. So that has your specific Legion, Space Marine Legion rules in it that are covered, that pretty much cover from the Crusade or the campaign books 1 to 6. So if you see on Forge World, they have the big black books. Those are the big campaign books, and they've kind of sectioned the legions off in a whole bunch of them. But this main red book, it has them all in it from books 1 to 6. So there's that one for your legion specific, and that's kind of, I think that's kind of one that you truly will need.
Oh, for sure.
You know,
it's, well,
right.
I guess it depends on what specific legion you're actually playing. Basically, you can get this book and be ready to rock as long as you aren't playing Space Wolves, Custodes, Thousand Suns, Blood Angels, White Scars, Demons of the Runestorm, Dark Angels. Now, I guess with updated Night Lords. Everything else is in that book. So I know there's a decent amount of stuff that we just said there, but it's basically 8 of the legions have been either updated or came out in later versions of these black campaign books. So you've got the 10 legions that have the most up-to-date rules in them right now. But also keep in mind about that FAQ, because it does apply to the Age of Darkness Legions, Age of Darkness Army List, and the Age of Darkness Rulebook. It's quite a large document, I believe something like 30 pages, 32 pages. And it has a little kind of errata for almost every black book that's come out, not to mention, like we said, the Rulebook and the Army List book. So if you are looking to play Space Wolves, Custodes, Thousand Suns, those are in book 7 when they first came out. Book 8 has Blood Angels, White Scars, Custodes, Demons of the Runestorm. They did an update of the Custodes list in that particular book. That's also the Cygnus Prime campaign stuff. And then book 9 is, Dark Angels, Night Lords, Thramas campaign. If you see online any mention of relics, Age of Darkness relics, they also, like, they have a generic set, and then they also have Legion specific relics. Those are found in book 4. You can also find them online. Battle Scribe is pretty much up to date with all this stuff, although as much as I like using Battle Scribe as just a quick list building tool, always refer to your books first. Just, you know, mistakes do happen, and you'd hate to kind of base something that Battle Scribe says one thing but the books say another, because sometimes it's just, you know, not quite right. But I think for the most part it's been pretty well cleaned up from the earlier days anyways.
Yeah, they update every once in a while, right?
Yeah. So I know we threw a whole bunch of info at you about these black books and red books. So unless you're really hardcore into the fluff, disregard the black books because you won't really need them unless we mentioned before you're playing a specific legion. The army list and the legions book essentially is your codex for the 40k players. This will have all your specific, what would be the equivalent of chapter tactics, your rites of war are in this as well, which are pretty much like formations where, you know, you could take certain unit types and make them troops. Like Terminators can be troops, or, you know, tanks can be troops. It changes some things. There are restrictions to each one, like pros and cons. These are basically formations like in 7th edition, but nowhere near as broken or shenanigan inducing.
Yeah, there's no
no free stuff. No. The main book has your main codex book, right? The army list has a force org selection, which is basically the different detachments you can take. Majority of the games you will play in like regular frontline missions will be using the Crusade force org chart. If you're playing APOC and like bigger ones, that's when you get into like Leviathan and some of the other interesting ones. It really changes your detachment and what units you can take. There's also bonuses, pros and cons to each one depending on what you're using. Continuing on, if you're getting deep into it, there is a smaller version of Heresy, which is equivalent to almost like a kill team setting. It's smaller board, like a 4x4, but this is like a Zone Mortalis. So this is to represent gaming inside a space hulk or a military complex, prison, whatever the case may be. And it's a lot, the rules are very much the same, but there are a few subtle changes. Those are also online on the Games Workshop site, because they recently updated those too. Not recently, like probably 8 months ago, I think they came out. But you were free to also play that Zone Mortalis rules, which is fun. You can pretty much get away from anything up to like 1500, 1750 at the most, I think would be fair.
Yeah, it's kind of a mix between your regular games and almost kind of a Space Hulk esque kind of game, right? So there's different things that can affect you in game and some slightly different rules, which are pretty neat and makes, as we've observed, it makes certain units a bit better in that type of game compared to a regular match for the tabletop, right?
Yeah.
So, and actually, just going back to these books that we've talked about, the red books with your army lists, there are a couple other ones as well.
That is true,
right? So you have the Crusade Imperialis army list.
Yep.
Which I believe have the Solar Auxilia in that one, and the Questoris Knights, and I believe the Imperial Militia and Army list in that one as well. So for any of you, non-Legion Astarte fans, you might want to look at that one. It's pretty neat. It's different options in that one. And then there's also the another one for the Mechanicum. So that's a whole other army group that you can go into and build armies from and play in different units, right? So it's a lot of different options for it, which is great. And with a lot of these books too, they actually have they're online, like interactive ones.
Oh, the enhanced editions. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. So they're very handy if you have it on your phone or your iPad that you bring with you or whatever. Just couple clicks and you have a special rule come up for you, right? So, and they tend to update all the time as well, which is really good.
Yeah.
It's a really awesome feature.
Oh, that, yeah, the Horus Heresy Mechanicum, that's the Tugmata army list book, just for clarity.
Yes.
Yeah, the enhanced versions are nice if you have a digital device to use them on. Although, you know, I prefer my hard copies just because I've been on the end of a iPad that's died when I was trying to look up Titan rules, and yeah, it kind of sucked.
Yeah, I got both.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, for army lists and whatnot, those are the kind of the books you definitely, you know, must have in order to really get into the game. Pretty much. There's lots of different ways of building armies in the game too, which is really awesome, especially with these different rites of wars. They change things up a bit too. And then there's the nice thing with it is with the legions and whatnot, they have their own specific ones, but then there are generic ones that you can draw from, right, in the other rule books. So if there's some kind of flavor of an army, it's there. You can play it. Like, you can definitely build something to your liking. If you want a drop pod army, it's there. You know, bike army, it's there. You know, armored spearhead kind of thing. Or if you love tanks, it's there. So it's pretty good. It's, you know, with all the players that we've played in the past and whatnot, just a variety of armies.
Oh, yeah.
You know, people might think, might say, oh, Heresy is just Marine on Marine. Oh, no. No. The majority, you're going to see Marines because that's the cool factor, right? Everybody loves seeing the Marines from the Heresy. That's the stories. But once you start seeing these other armies and their units, we've had a lot of guys come from like 40K and they check out the tables and they're just blown away. It's like, oh, I wish our stuff was look cool like that, So it's pretty good. I know I'm enjoying it. I know you're enjoying it.
Oh, for sure. We've been rocking out for quite some time, right? Like going on, this is probably year 9 that we've been playing Heresy. So it's been a while.
Has it? Oh boy, time goes by fast, man. Yeah. So we kind of covered the books and the army books that you need and whatnot. But what about like model wise for guys who are just getting into it, or guys who are, thinking of checking it out, even though they've got an army for 40K, like model wise.
Are you? Oh, go ahead.
I was just saying, are you limited to just, what they show you for Heresy,
Yeah, I know, like online, a lot of the big questions usually are, hey guys, is this kit, 30K or fluff appropriate? Is this kit gonna work for me? And the community's pretty much in agreement that most of these kits will work no matter what. There's a few different things. So basically, starting just from your plain Jane basic GW kit, your Rhino, your Land Raider, Vindicator, Drop Pods, Whirlwinds, your Dreadnoughts, your Ironclad, Venerable. They're all basically Dreadnoughts for 30K, but all those 40K specific vehicles, those are fine. Those are a Mars pattern. Totally legit to use in the Heresy. No issues with that at all. So if you have those vehicles, you can port them over no problem. That's easy. It's also nice if you like working with plastic specifically, just because they're all in plastic. You don't have to buy upgrade kits from Forge World if you don't want to. That's for the Democles or Demios versions. So yeah, Mars pattern is totally fine. As far as land speeders go, you could get away with the 40k plastic land speeders with some conversion work, but they do sell the retro 30k Age of Darkness speeders now, which are super cool. They're a really nice throwback to the old school metal one that would have been out in 2nd edition. They also have a Javelin, which is Forge World specific, so just take a look at different options that way. As far as your actual aircraft goes, the only real one that's going to be usable, and it's going to take your kit, is basically a Storm Raven. You can buy some of the third-party upgrade resin kits to make it a Storm Eagle, but you know, depending on how much those kits are, shipping, buying the actual Storm Raven, it has to be unbuilt so you can actually convert and extend the body and add the different weapons onto the wings and stuff. It might just be cheaper to buy a Storm Eagle from Forge World. I think last time I checked they're around like 210. So not for the faint of heart though. I'll just spoiler.
Yeah.
As far as your infantry goes, so if you're wanting to use, let's just start I guess with Space Marines. Most of the Space Marine kits are probably gonna jive. MK7 I know comes up quite a bit, which is like your common Space Marine power armor that you see a lot of, and this is all non-Primaris stuff. Primaris stuff doesn't quite exist. We're just talking like strictly Firstborn right now. The Mark 7 stuff is appropriate for late Heresy, Siege of Terra kind of era, so that's fine to use. Predominantly with the legions that were actually on Terra defending it, right? So got some Blood Angels, Imperial Fists, some White Scars. They could be outfitted with some newer armor that wouldn't hurt Timeline or Fluff or anything like that. Indomitable pattern Terminators. These are your standard 40k Terminators. Not the Cataphractii, not the Tartaros. I'm talking the old school ones. Those are also Heresy appropriate. They just count as straight up Terminator armor. So they have some restrictions, just like Cataphractii and Tartaros have pros and cons to them. They're just another cool looking model that is super popular in 40k. So yes, you can port those over as well. What else? I don't want to forget anything.
A lot of like a lot of the weapons are the same.
Yes.
In both systems,
yeah.
Right? 40k, 30k. But what you'll find is there's actually a fair bit of technology weapons that don't actually exist in 40k, so to speak. So they do make those kits. They do make separate gun packages, you know, and not to mention they actually do make a lot of the heavy weapons, bringing it back to like the old school shoulder-mounted heavy weapon,
yeah.
You know, and the older style design to the weapons for the Marines. So if you have, for example, like an MK3 armor Marine, they do make those kits to have the shoulder-mounted plasma cannon, you know. And it looks fairly different. And there's a couple different weapon sets like that too. You'll sometimes have like the underslung heavy weapon compared to the shoulder mount. So lots of options for the different marks of armor.
Oh, definitely. Not to mention like weapons. Not to mention just the humble bolt gun. Like there's a lot of different bolt guns that you can pick for your Marines. Just like Andy did mention, MK3, MK4 Marines, those are plastic, those are sold from GW, those are totally fine. And honestly, like, one kit that I really like is just the standard Space Marine Tactical Squad, the 40k one. It has a mix of MK4, 6, and 7. And it's not a horrible set to buy, especially if you're going to go late Heresy with it. You can get away with using just plastic and then just upgrading like shoulders and heads if you really wanted to get fancy. Maybe bolters, just because they'd have the newest style of bolter. So it's not a bad thing to look at all your options, especially when you're just starting out a new army. Or, you know, you really want to play a Legion, but you only have 40k Marines. Well, play test as much as you can, just to make sure, you know, you're going to buy and be happy with your force and enjoy it. It's a big deal, so.
Oh, for sure. For sure. And that comes to, like, when we're talking to you about these models, a lot of these are going to be your generic, you know, Astarte units, right? Once you start getting into specific legions, specific legion units, it's a whole other ballgame. Because there really is no plastic kits for those. The closest thing I'm going to say is if you're trying to make like Word Bearers Gal Vorbak, there might be some plastic kits that you can use, like the Possessed or whatever.
Yeah,
they
the
are.
Greater Possessed Marines.
Yeah, exactly. So, but when you're looking at the Legion specific units, though, that's all going to be coming pretty much from Forge World, and some of them will be using some of the plastic kits in combination. They're you pretty much just get these upgrade pieces and you slam them together and you have that unit, right? So, again, like Bill said, you know, test things out, try it out before you know, double down and just go crazy and buy everything and then find out it's just going to sit on your shelf, you know, because you don't use it.
Yeah, that's the worst thing, right? Dropping money, building, painting units, and then they're just sitting there while you play with everything else but that unit.
Yeah.
It's kind of a drag. As far as like with the units go, a lot of the Imperial Guard stuff can transfer over for your Imperial Army militia. The vehicles themselves, like Sentinels, heavy weapons teams, Lehman Russ tanks, all that stuff is pretty much interchangeable. They do have specific tank chassis and weapons that, again, you'll have to buy from a official or unofficial source. That is your call. What else? Mechanicum. There are some options that you can run Mechanicum, a lot of it in plastic, but again, some of the specialty stuff is strictly resin, so it's good. I think the one army that really gets to, you know, really makes out like bandits is Demons and Custodes, realistically.
Well, yeah, they're pretty much in both systems.
Yeah.
And you use the majority of those models.
Yeah.
Right? Like demons across the board. No matter what demon it is, it transfers over into 30k with the Demons of the Runestorm. Yeah. And then on top of that, actually, there are models from Age of Sigmar demon line that you can actually incorporate into the Demons of the Runestorm as well. Right? Like, I'm talking like the larger beasts, like the Glotkin, I think, is a Nurgle unit that is just so massive. It's a behemoth in 30k, right? And it fits the scene. So that's like demons right there, you know. As for your Custodes or Talons of the Emperor, it's pretty much the same models, right? They have a couple specific models that are more attuned to 30k, but the majority of the models are it's the same thing.
Yeah. So
you can play both systems, you know, and have probably two great armies in both systems.
Definitely.
if you love gold, that's where it's
Right.
at. So, but yeah, they're pretty good. And they have Sisters of Silence that go with them as well. So you don't see them too often, but they're there. They got some pretty interesting units. What else have we got? Well, I guess touch base again here a little bit on like your Imperial Army and Militia.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's the army that you can really do a lot of like your own storyline or conversion. You know, we've seen a lot of guys who have actually 3D printed their whole army, right? Just there's so many regiments, and unfortunately, there's so few models, you know, that are officially 30K. So it opens up the floor to allowing the player to create their own regiment, use their whichever models they seem fit, right? So
yeah, it's very much a Build-A-Bear type army, where you can fall down a dark and dirty rabbit hole, chasing a lot of third-party bits, like specifically Victorian models or Victorian miniatures. Sorry, they have fantastic, beautiful upgrades, and you can make some really thematic and very custom, units. It's just you will definitely pay for what you get. So you'll get awesome kits and stuff, but these squads will be expensive. So keep in mind, how you want to run an army before you start going hog wild on an idea, just to make sure you can follow through, I guess, is the biggest thing, right? Finding out you're paying, $90 a squad because you got to buy bits from 2 different sources plus the kits, it could be a little off-putting. So plan it out for sure. Definitely, take time to figure it out. That said, there is a Black Shields army for Space Marines, which is very much as well Build-A-Bear. They have a huge section in the books where you can pretty much custom build like an army that is loyal to no legion. They're their own like pirate / renegade band of Marines. So it does offer a lot of interesting things, and that's not to be confused with a Shatter Legion force, which is like Istvan survivors essentially. So there's definitely a lot, I know there's a lot to digest in the opening like half hour in this particular episode, and hopefully the pictures do help with what you're seeing and hearing, just to give you a visual reference of what to look at or what to look for.
Yeah, and there's more to it. Well, like you have the knights, Questoris knights as well, right? So like, if you're one of those players that you don't like a super high model count and you just want to field big stompy robots, well, this is probably the army for you. And let me tell you, the Heresy knights and whatnot, you just have to look at Adeptus Titanicus, but on a larger scale, right? For 30K, these models are a painter's, canvas.
I was going to say wet dream.
They're yeah. Whoa. Yeah. But they're, they are a large model that has some pretty large surfaces that, if you're a really good painter and you just want to go to town, this is it, right?
Yeah.
Not to mention that it's a fun army to play as well. Low model count, and you just go in there and try to do your worst, right? We've seen the armies a few times, and they can be tough to play against, but they're not invincible, right? But the paint jobs of the knights and the houses and the different style of knights. Like each one of your knights can be completely different color, which is pretty neat. So there is that option too, right?
And the nice thing is all the knights in 40k are available in 30k as well. So from the Armigers to the big Castellan, all that stuff is available in 30k. So if you just have a knight army from 40k and you just kind of want to check out something else, you're essentially a rule book and a codex book away from jumping in and playing. So just keep it in mind, right? There's always ways to do it. I personally like having my large heresy armies, and now thanks to the Forge World Compendium book, I can jump in between, Horus Heresy or 9th edition 40k and bounce back and forth and use, like, in all honesty, I'm using probably 90% of my model range, right? There's some very specific units that just kind of don't fit, but for the most part, everything has a data slate or an option to play. So it's nice because you can jump into a 40k system with a pure, like, firstborn army and still run, chapter tactics like everyone else. And now that Marines were kind of upgraded across the board, you'd be surprised, like, you can still actually play.
It makes that army viable.
It is,
again,
yeah.
Right?
And that's the nice thing, like, from coming from 40k into 30k as well, is a lot of your stuff is still viable as well.
Yeah, and it's like my Ultramarines can port over pretty quick, right? There might be one or two things that I couldn't throw in there, but they just fill in the gaps and make the selections and change maybe some things up a little bit, but you're able to play, and vice versa. So if you have a good selection of models for 40k, they definitely can transfer over, and next thing you know it, you have yourself a force to fight with and start playing, and then you can try things out. So it's funny because with sometimes a lot of 40k players, they say they like Heresy, they think it's cool, but they don't want to play that rule set again, right? The thing with this rule set is it is actually quite different from 7th edition rule set. Whereas you had, again, like Bill mentioned earlier, you had all those detachments and stuff to play around with, and it kept on. There was kind of like a creep, right? A new set of detachments came out, and they were just way better than anything else. Well, this isn't like that. It's a lot more balanced than that. So, if you are thinking of jumping in the 30k, don't let that sway you the other way, right? Give it a try. Ways of getting into the game is maybe a few people who are already playing. I wouldn't be surprised, and I probably guarantee it, that if you would even just ask, hey, mind if I get a demo game in? That's kind of one of the best ways to do it. And they'll probably more than likely be super happy that you've taken interest in it. In the community, Heresy is there's a presence there, but we're always looking for more. So
no, totally, it's definitely one of the main reasons we like to play is just keep growing the system and enjoying these battles. So it's quite a thing.
There's a lot of character to the game, right? I'm probably going to say there's a lot more characters in 30k compared to, I think, maybe 40k. Just each legion has, a whack load of characters, and all the other armies have characters as well. Could be wrong. It could be about the equal amount, but when you start building these armies and you start seeing which Primarks or characters, independent characters that you really like. You get to see Karn, but he's not the betrayer yet. You know what I mean? And then you get to start building these armies kind of based around them or based around the fluff. So, and that's a good way of starting, is if you've read the books, if you like the fluff of the army or the stories of the army, that's probably one of the best ways to go about it and start kind of building it around that, a storyline. If you know that these world eaters are just all chain axe wielding, maniacs that are just bull rushing, that might be your thing. I know it was for me when I started, but it's great because you'll find something. There's something there for everyone, for sure. Just a lot of selection with units, a lot of, each specific legion has fairly different specific legion units. It's everyone has like a Terminator unit, but specific to those legions, they have their own little flair. So you'll find something you like. Definitely find something. And when you read the stories, like, you're there, you want them. It gets you that hype of, I want to make these guys, I want to make this legion, I want to play them, right? But yeah, as for other stuff for getting into Heresy is, I guess, even finding a group to play with. Check out your local stores, local communities, Facebook groups. Tons out there. They'll definitely have guys to play with and learn the game, right?
Oh yeah, for sure. Oh, a thing before we, I guess, move too far away from the models is, can you use Primaris in 30K? The short answer is no. They require a lot of conversion work to try and make them look era appropriate for armor mark wise. But if you really like the look of like a true scale Marine, I would urge you to check out the Tortuga Bay studio on Instagram. There will be a link in there. They have MK2, MK3, MK4 running and standing true scale Marine sized torsos with legs attached. So they're Primaris sized, but you can glue on all the 30K regular era stuff, bolters, backpacks, power plants, I should say, pauldrons, everything like that, and it'll work quite well. And you can run a true scale Marine force that way as well. I know it's come up a couple times in just one of the generic 30K pages about guys wanting to use Primaris, and for playtesting with your buddies, fill your boots, go nuts, right? It's just, if you're gonna actually play in the actual system and start playing, specifically for 30K, the one thing you'll find in this particular system or hobby is the attention to detail is like paramount. Everybody puts in that little extra effort for detail on their models, their whole force, the vehicles, and it's like the next level of hobbying. The range is a little more diverse than 40K, which leads you to see more unique units on the board. So it's just, yeah, you'll definitely notice a difference with these legions and with these different players on the board. As far as actually getting started, like, what do you need? If you're lucky enough to get a Kelth or a Prospero box for like, $250, you'd probably be doing okay. That's Canadian, by the way. You'd probably be doing okay because they are OOP, out of production. So usually starting games, honestly, with a your 1 or 2 HQ with 2 troops is very easy just to start. You can add Terminators, you can have add a Dreadnought, and start building up your own little mini Cold War between you and your friends. I know in our early League days we were doing that. Every couple of weeks someone would have another new shiny toy, and it was like, oh damn, and then the next week you had a new shiny toy, and yeah, it was a lot of fun that way. But yeah, there's definitely a lot of different stuff to consider when you're buying. If you want to start really, really small and just maybe, you know, split the book with a buddy and see if you guys even like it, they do have actually fan-made rules for Crusade, which ports over just like the 40k Crusade rules. Very similar. So if you're really familiar with that, using it in 30k to kind of go run through a little campaign or Crusade with your buddy and, you know, running 500 points, 750 points each isn't very unrealistic. You could do it pretty easy. And they have obviously era specific upgrades and stuff that you can find. And these are all like free on downloads and stuff. So again, we'll have links in the description for all that.
Yeah, no, it's pretty good. There's lots of options out there. Right, so check it out. I guess with the other thing that you actually, and it just came to mind, obviously you'll have your regular dice, but if you have any of these kicking around, there are the scatter dice. And also the templates. So those are needed for Horus Heresy.
True.
So hopefully you didn't use your templates for making terrain or anything, but
yeah,
you know, if you had them before, but they're pretty easy to come across. If you have any kind of gaming groups, I'm sure somebody has some just kicking around. As for the scatter dice, same kind of thing, right? And if you know what specific legion you like, Forge World has, you know, come out with legion specific dice that come with that scatter dice as well, and some really, really nice dice. So
they are a nice run for sure.
Yeah, no, definitely. So, and if you're using I guess super heavies and larger weaponry, there's also the larger template sets. I believe they were used for maybe Armageddon back in the day. I can't quite remember.
Armageddon or APOC.
APOC, yeah. But definitely a large set like that. If you're starting to use super heavies, you'll probably need some of that stuff.
Yeah.
Just trying to think what else. Oh, in the books they do have psychic powers. So more than likely you'll probably be going through the book. Some of us, we actually have held on to our old psychic power decks.
Yeah.
Right? Sometimes you can still find them. Somebody has it kicking around again. Those are handy. I'm surprised they actually haven't reissued those, remade them for Heresy. But yeah, if you have them, that's awesome. If not, they're all in the book anyways. You know, I'm sure people can actually make cards for them either way. Other than that, what we got here?
That's probably close to almost all of it. Like, I guess where you would go from here is pick a legion or faction. Pick an allegiance. Are you for the War Master or are you fighting for the Emperor? And then if you really want to take it an extra step, plan your list either around a particular theme or spot in the book, or around a specific rite of war. So, you know, if you have an idea of this is how I want my army to play, this is kind of how I want it to feel on the tabletop, there are rites and, you know, unit selections that you can do to help build that theme into your list. So definitely check those out. You know, and honestly, feel free if you guys do have questions or comments about something that you've heard on here, or you want something clarified, just hit us up, let us know, either via email or just on the comments section, or PM us on Instagram or on Facebook, because we're more than happy to answer questions. It's a big part of the hobby, is, you know, mentoring newer players. And regardless of skill level, right? Like even veteran players, it's good to mentor each other and help each other out, and, you know, really break everything down so everyone's on the same page and enjoying the hobby as much as possible. So yeah, there are no silly questions in Heresy.
Definitely. And there is one little section too that we may have overlooked, and you might be thinking about it, is, do I need any kind of specific terrain for 30K? And with that, terrain that you're using for 40K will tie right in for 30K.
Yeah.
You know, in the book they have a section. It's not as in depth like 40K is, but they do give you a description of terrain, you know, what kind of cover saves you get from it, and there's some that have different little rules as well. But you know, if you have a set of ruins, you know, or if you have craters, trees, all that jazz, all that stuff, it's all usable. It's all transferable to 30K. So you just set up your board and, you know, pretty much figure what the terrain does for you throughout the game. And it's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. But yeah, I think that's kind of one of those topics, right, for terrain, just having a good amount of different stuff, right? So
yeah, definitely.
Other than that, yeah, I think that was pretty much, now that I'm thinking about it, I think that's pretty much really about it for my side here.
Yeah, for the most part, I think we've covered pretty much everything. Oh, specifically like Primarks. Primarks are pretty much going to come from Forge World, just because like there are some companies that offer comparable models. It depends on what you're looking to spend, and some of the quality out there is really, really nice. So definitely, yeah, shop around if you're not happy with the Forge World one. There's a couple different specialty guys that are doing nice versions of the Primarks, so check those out. A lot of your Lords of War are going to be Forge World or like resin specific. Some of the Baneblade variants are obviously the plastic style that you can buy in 40K, but a lot of your Lord of War options are going to be resin based, just because those options aren't really in plastic. So yeah. The only other thing I wanted to talk about, and this is kind of for existing players, if you've made it this far, is basically, as existing players in the hobby, our presence online is a big one, and ensuring that we're not crushing anybody coming into the hobby first off, like asking some questions. I noticed on a few pages, you know, there are some guys who really have kind of like a chip on their shoulder when they're talking about Forge World or Heresy, and, you know, or they're answering questions from some of these newer players, and just, you know, really try to be the player you wish was playing with you guys, you and your group, when you guys first started. You know, be positive, help the players find like the best bang for their buck, right? Talk to them about starting armies small, but just, you know, starting. You know, don't rag on writers, developers, or any of the Forge World guys, because they're doing their thing. They're putting out stuff that we love, and just do your best to try and support fellow hobbyists, especially new guys. I can't stress it enough that new blood is the way that the hobby stays fresh and vibrant. And if you scare off new blood, that's not good, right? And we're a pretty legit crowd, so I'd really like to see these qualities shine, because we are very forthcoming with info. We've been around long enough. We know where all the third-party sites are and stuff like that. We know the game inside and out, but helping newer players, even existing players, helping each other is the main focus of that social aspect. One thing I wanted to touch base on, because it's not cool to see, right? If I was new coming in, I wouldn't want to see those kind of comments, or just negative comments in general. Or like on Saturday, we didn't get into the Warhammer Fest, and there was some salt floating around on some pages, and that's rough too, right? Like, again, as new players, there was a lot of hype. That's cool, but let's not get too carried away. We still love the game. We're still playing. No, you're not gonna sell your $17K worth of Emperor's Children for $100 on eBay. If you are, please email Trident Wargaming, and we'll pick that up off you. So,
oh boy.
Well, come on, it's just, come on, guys.
No, it's true. It's true what you said, though. Like, you want to be positive. You want to show that positive feature of the community to new players, right? That's exactly how you said it. That's how you're going to, have the community grow and have new people show up and it be fresh again, right? So, I know it's happened here over the few years here locally where, we got new players, and it's exciting to see those new players going through the same motions of excitement that we did when we first started.
Yep.
Right. So we try to help them out as much as we can, and even coach, and try to be good with answering the questions that they may have. Right. And, anywhere from building lists to painting to armor specific for a timeline, or whichever, right? So it's definitely a way of growing the heresy community and growing the enjoyment with the players in your community, local community, or abroad, right? So I know I've had a couple of super positive encounters, even just recently, with starting up with the White Scars, and a lot of guys who are playing White Scars are just excited to work on their stuff and to see what we've been doing here as well, and you kind of bounce off of each other.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, I like how I like the way he did this, or that idea, or where'd you get those weapons from, or it's just you're relaying just that positive vibe and information of the armies, or models, or paint styles, or designs, or just army lists. It's fantastic. It's really what it's all about, right? So just we know there's a lot of bullshit in this world, so this is our hobby. Let's make it great. Making heresy great again.
Indeed. Indeed.
It's the way to do it. So, but I think that's my piece for the
that was basically the one thing I just wanted to touch on, because come on, guys, be more positive. Yeah, so that's basically it in a nutshell. Again, any comments, questions, things that you want to see, check it out. Don't forget to sign up for the Ravener Returned giveaway. Last time I checked, we're actually pretty close. I think we're like 15 followers away from doing the giveaway now. So that's been huge. We've jumped up quite a bit, which is awesome to see. So again, thank you for the support.
Big thank you.
We definitely appreciate it. And yeah, like we say on Trident, you know, build it, paint it, play it, and we will be touching base with you guys next time.
See you guys.